fin.Transbrasil is a defunct Brazilian airline which ceased operations in December 2001. During most of its history, Transbrasil was owned by local entrepreneur Omar Fontana. Its aircraft usually featured a colorful livery, remarkably with a rainbow on the tail fin. Transbrasil base was Brasilia International Airport in Brasilia. For the 70s and until its demise in 2002, Transbrasil was mostly the third largest Brazilian airline after Varig and VASP, serving both domestic and international routes. History. The first years as Sadia. Transbrasil was born in the state of Santa Catarina as a sister company of RuthAS Indústria e Comércio Concordia, better known by its acronym Sadia. In 1953, Omar Fontana, one of the sons of the founder of Sadia Attilio Fontana, noticed to Douglas DC-3 that remained parked at Joacaba Airport, near Concordia, the whole weekend. Omar Fontana came up with the idea of leasing the aircraft for transporting the products of Sadia to São Paulo. In 1954, Sadia acquired its first own Douglas DC-3 and flights became daily, having Omar as one of the crew members. However, since it was not an airline with regular schedule, it could not receive subventions from the government. In order to avoid this restriction, on January 5, 1955 he created Sadia S.A. Transportes Aéreos. The first regular flight was operated on March 16, 1956. Sadia enlarged Concordia Airport so that a Douglas DC-3 could operate with full load and created the first route from Concordia to Videira, Florianópolis, São Paulo Congonhas. A short time later, Sadia was also operating to Londrina, Bauru, Ribeirão Preto and Brasilia. In November 1957, Sadia established a partnership with Real Transportes Aéreos and became a feeder airline at Florianópolis, whereas Lineu Gomes got 50% of the shares of Sadia. Omar Fontana became part of the board of Real, where he gained airline experience. At this time, Sadia moved headquarters to São Paulo and expanded services to Rio de Janeiro, Santos Dumont and Porto Alegre. This partnership ended in 1961 with the demise of Real, and Fontana bought back the shares he had earlier sold to Gomes. In 1962, Sadia bought TASSA, Transportes Aéreos Salvador, and increased its presence in Bahia. In 1967, most of Sadia network was eligible to receive subventions from the federal government, and aiming at those subventions, Sadia bought 5 Handley Page Heralds. In 1968, Sadia joined the shuttle service between Rio de Janeiro, Santos Dumont and São Paulo Congonhas airports, operated since 1959 by Varig, Cruzeiro do Sul and VASP. This service was abandoned only in 1999. The first jet airliner type to be introduced into the fleet of Sadia, a BAC 111 Series 500, entered into service on September 17, 1970. In 1972, the name of the airline was changed to Transbrasil S.A. Linhas Aéreas and its headquarters were moved to Brasilia. Consolidation as Transbrasil. 1973, Transbrasil replaces its aging Dart Heralds by new Embraer EMB 110 Bandeirante light transport turboprops. 1974, Transbrasil starts to phase out its remainder Bandeirantes Heralds and 1-11s, replacing them with Boeing 727-100. By 1979, its fleet consisted only on 727-100s. 1983, its first Boeing 767-200 is delivered, and Transbrasil starts its international operations, initially with charter flights, and from 1989, with regular service to Miami, Orlando and Washington, D. C. Apogee and downturn. In 1990, Transbrasil fleet consisted of 3 767-200, 3 Boeing 707 for cargo and passenger service and 15 leased Boeing 737-300 and -400. In addition to domestic flights to most of the larger Brazilian cities, Transbrasil offered regular and charter service to Miami, Orlando, New York, Washington, Buenos Aires, Vienna, Amsterdam, London and even Beijing. During some time, due to discounted ticket prices and an aggressive commercial strategy, Transbrasil surpassed VASP as the second largest Brazilian airline. Despite its growing market share, Transbrasil was already experiencing financial problems. In 1987, after a formal request of its chairman Omar Fontana, Brazilian government took over Transbrasil management. However, soon Fontana started to disagree with the Brazilian Air Force officers nominated to run the company, and in 1989 the intervention was cancelled. After Fontana stepped out from Transbrasil management due to health issues, the company was run by his son-in-law Celso Cipriani, a former police officer with no previous experience on airline management. Cipriani's tenure on Transbrasil was controversial, and he has been formally charged with fraud, embezzlement of funds and property and mismanagement since then. On January 14, 1994, Transbrasil created its regional subsidiary Intebrasilstar to operate as feeder carrier. Services started on July 3, 1995. In addition to the management problems, Transbrasil was also facing other difficulties, especially the reduced to no profit from its international routes, severe competition from other companies in the domestic front, and growing expenses. In the 3rd of December 2001, despite several government loans, Transbrasil was amassing huge debts with several suppliers. When Shell refused to further supply fuel without payment, Transbrasil's then aging and reduced fleet was grounded for good. Finally, in 2003, the company was declared bankrupt after request of one of its major debtors, GE Aircraft Leasing Company. After bankruptcy on 16 September 2009, the Brazilian Federal Supreme Court began the analysis of the legality of the bankruptcy of Transbrasil. The bankruptcy was confirmed on 2 October 2009. That same year, the Public Ministry was preparing to file charges against the senior management of the company, the main accused being Celso Cipriani, who allegedly committed crimes that hastened the company's demise. In 2010, the debt which caused the bankruptcy of Transbrasil was invalidated by the Court of Justice of São Paulo. Destinations: Fleet Airline Affinity Program. TransPass was Transbrasil's frequent flyer program. Points could be used on Transbrasil and Intebrasilstar services. Points held at the time of the airline's collapse lost their value as no other airline took over the program. Accidents and incidents. As Sadia, 4 August 1963, a Douglas C-49E registration PPSLL en route from Joacaba to Videira crashed into a hill when approaching Videira Underpour. Visibility. All 10 occupants died. 3 November 1967, a Handley Page Herald 214 registration PPSDJ flying from São Paulo Congonhas to Curitiba Afonso Peña collided with the hill. During approach to land at Curitiba, all crew and 21 passengers died. 4 passengers survived. As Transbrasil, 22nd of January 1976, an Embraer EMB 110C Bandeirante registration PTTBD operating Flight 107 from Chapecó to Arecum, crashed upon takeoff from Chapecó. 7 of the 9 passengers and crew on board died. The 12th of April 1980, a Boeing 727-27C registration PTTYS operating Flight 303 flying from São Paulo Congonhas to Florianopolis was on a night instrumental approach to Florianopolis Airport under a severe thunderstorm. The aircraft went off course, struck a hill and exploded. Probable causes are misjudgment of speed and distance, inadequate flight supervision, failure to initiate a go-around and improper operation of the engines. Of the 58 passengers and crew aboard, 3 passengers survived. The 21st of March 1989, Flight 801, a cargo Boeing 707-349C registration PTTCS, flying from Manaus to São Paulo Guarulhos, crashed at the district of Vila Barros in Guarulhos shortly before touchdown at runway 09R. That day, at 12 o'clock, the runway was going to be closed for maintenance, and the crew decided to speed up procedures to touchdown before closure. In a hurry, one of the crew members, by mistake, activated the aerodynamic brakes and the aircraft lost too much speed to have enough aerodynamic support. As a consequence, the aircraft crashed at approximately 2 kilometers from the airport. There were 25 fatalities, which of these 3 were crew members and 22 were civilians on the accident site. As well as the 22 fatalities, there were also over 100 injured on the ground. This aircraft was used in the filming of the movie Airport.